You lie still. The wood under your cheek is cold, damp. It smells of dampness, old cloth, and something sweet. Too sweet. There's a hand nearby. It touches your shoulder. It doesn't move. The wheels beneath you creak slowly, as if something heavy is dragging over the stones. You feel every jolt, every bump in the road. You're not alone. The bodies around you are packed too close together, too quiet. You try not to breathe, but the cold air still escapes from your lips in a thin mist. And then you understand. They think you're dead. In Victorian London, this was commonplace. The so-called death carts collected bodies from the streets, hospitals, houses, and took them to places where no one asked questions anymore. And today, you are one of them. Don't move, because if they notice, it will be too late. This is not a horror story. This is history. Wheels cry in the dark. The wheels beneath you creak, slowly, unevenly. Each jolt travels through your body, as if you are being carried not along the road, but along something harder. Stones. You don't open your eyes, not right away, because something is wrong. The air is cold and heavy. It smells like fabric that hasn't been washed in a long time. And something else. Sweet. Too sweet. There's someone's skin next to your face. Cold. Stillness. You feel it with your cheek. And you don't move. Another jolt. The wheels creak again. And somewhere ahead you hear the sound of metal on metal. A chain. Someone is pulling it slowly, lazily, as if it were a normal thing. You swallow, very carefully, because now you know. You are not lying down. You are being carried. You open your eyes, slowly. The world is blurry, dark, foggy. A lantern, somewhere to the side, casts a narrow light that slides across faces. Faces? Several of them. They are lying next to you. Sad. Too tight. One right next to your shoulder. His lips are slightly parted. His eyes are closed. He is not breathing. You freeze again, because now it is not a guess. It's a fact. You're among the dead. The wheels creak again, and you feel something touch your hand. Fingers. Strange, stiff. They shift a little from the push and freeze again. Like a doll that's been placed incorrectly. You don't move, even when you want to, because something in you is already clear. If you move, they'll notice it. And then the question arises. Why are you here? Somewhere behind you, you hear a voice. Deaf. Tired. Another one. A short pause. Put him on top. You can't see what's happening, but you feel it. Something heavy is being lifted, something helpless, and they lower it. Closer to you, too close. The fabric touches your neck. Wet. Cold. You want to take a deeper breath, but you can't, because the air will give you away. And then, you notice something else, a light mist, right in front of your face. Barely noticeable. It appears, and disappears, appears, and disappears. You watch, you freeze, and suddenly you understand. It's not mist. It's your breathing. You're alive. The wheels don't stop. They keep creaking, as if nothing had happened, as if it were just another flight, another night, another load. In Victorian London, this was not uncommon. Bodies were collected quickly, and they weren't always double-checked, because death was part of the city here, as familiar as fog, as quiet as night. But there was one problem. It was spoken of in whispers, and only among their own. Sometimes people woke up. You don't know how much time has passed. Minutes? Hours? Everything merges, because you lie still, and you listen. Every sound, every breath, every movement. And suddenly, something changes. The wheels begin to slow down. The creaking becomes quieter, slower. The cart stops. Silence. Real. The kind that presses. And then, footsteps. Heavy. Coming closer. From the left. You feel someone leaning close beside you. A shadow falls on your face. The light is blocked. A pause. And a hand. A stranger. A living one. It enters the darkness and touches someone's body. Holding back. Pushing. Stopping. Closer. Even closer. Towards you. Tonight, it's you who lies still. And if you make a mistake, no one will notice. A city used to the dead. A hand freezes over you. You don't breathe. You don't blink. You don't think. There is only one task: to lie still as if you have already crossed the line beyond which the cold no longer hurts. The tree under your back no longer presses. The wet wool and skin of those no longer called by name no longer smells. Your fingers touch the fabric near your chest. Easy, almost indifferent, like a person touches a sack of coal, or an old raincoat, or another thing that needs to be moved from place to place. Not a person, not you. The pause lasts longer than it should. Then a voice above the cart mumbles something incomprehensible. Another voice further away, closer to the horse, answers briefly, "All of them?" Almost. The hand disappears. The air returns to your lungs in short bursts, a thin thread that you're afraid to break. You're still alive. For now. Footsteps recede. You hear something heavy being dragged down. You hear a wooden blow. Then another. Body after body. Work without ceremony, fast, trained. The wheels are no longer moving, but their creaking still lives in you, as if your ear has memorized the road and doesn't want to let it go even in silence. You cautiously open your eyes wider. Above you is a black sky, cut by smoke and the dim light of a lantern. At the edge of the cart is the roof of some arch or canopy. You can't see everything, only fragments. The horse's side, a wheel, a boot, a pair of dark coats, the shadow of a hook on the wall. A hook. You stare at it longer than you should, because it's not a random detail. It means a place where bodies aren't just brought in. They're unloaded here. And somewhere inside you, a new question arises. Not where you were taken. And why didn't anyone check? In Victorian London, death wasn't an event. It was a city job, a daily one, like taking out the ashes, like morning bread deliveries, like cleaning the canals after the rain, especially for the poor. Where people lived 6, 8, 10 to a room, where the windows wouldn't open because the frames had rotted, where a bucket of water was a luxury, and the stench from the street argued with the stench from within. There a body could lie there longer than it should, not because it was loved and didn't want to let go, but because there was no one to pay. The city grew faster than it could remember the dead, and so it invented ways not to look them in the face. The footsteps turn. You instantly lower your gaze. You become still again. Two men argue quietly, but you hear individual words. Fever. Richkova. From the alley behind the market. Woman. Boy. Then silence. And another word. Faster. There is no anger in that word. Only fatigue. The people standing outside don't look like monsters. They don't whisper ominous threats. They don't laugh. They don't enjoy themselves. And that's why it's scarier. Because they're ordinary. And ordinary people learn best not to notice what prevents them from living until morning. Something scrapes against the wood near your leg. Maybe a belt. Maybe a hook. Maybe a buckle. But the sound is so sharp that you almost wince. A body next to you shifts a few fingers. His shoulder presses harder against yours. You feel the dampness of the fabric, the stiffness of the seam, the smell of sweat, smoke, and that sweet decay that hasn't yet become decay, but has already ceased to be life. You are overcome by a disgusting, almost childish desire to move away. You can't. This is the first real horror of the night. Not death nearby, but powerlessness nearby. One of the men lights a cigarette. The match flashes sharply. For a moment, the world becomes clearer. You see the edge of his face, a mustache, sunken cheeks, traces of sleepless nights under his eyes. He is not old, but in the darkness he seems older than the city. The match goes out. But that moment was enough for you to see something else. On the wooden side of the cart, the inscription darkens. Almost erased, the letters are beaten by rain and dirt. You don't see the whole word, only a fragment. Par, then something lower. H, a parish. And suddenly the world around you becomes more than just a dark adventure. It takes shape. This is not a private carriage, not a random cart, not a nighttime body snatching. It's part of the system. Parish dead cart. Official. Legal. Almost commonplace. In 19th century London, the dead were often not the responsibility of the family, but of parishes, workhouses, hospitals for the poor, local services. For those who could not afford a nice coffin, black-plumed horses, or a funeral procession, there was another way. Cheaper, faster, darker. The body could be taken at night, sometimes in the early morning, sometimes before the neighbors had finally believed that there was no longer any breath in the room. And sometimes it was not the neighbors who were wrong. You freeze at the thought, not because it was new, but because it was already too close. Anyone could be wrong. The old woman who touched your forehead and said you were cold. The neighbor who found it advantageous to vacate your bed. The constable who did not want to linger. A drunken doctor who saw 20 bodies a day. Orderlies who worked quickly. Sometimes a person was presumed dead simply because they didn't move. Sometimes because they didn't respond. Sometimes because no one wanted to look any longer. Something heavy falls over the cart. You can barely hold your breath. Another body. This time from above, closer to your feet. The blow is short, blunt. Someone cursed because the load was lying awkwardly. Be careful, you fool. They don't complain. Both of them laugh quietly, not out of cruelty, out of fatigue, out of that rough craft that has long since ceased to be strange. The phrase hangs over you like steam from a horse. They don't complain. For now. You feel something vibrating at the bottom of the cart, like a light knock. Once, pause. Once again, you tense up. It's not a wheel. The cart is standing still. Not a step. Not a voice. Not a horse. The knock comes from somewhere below, like something under a tree, or inside it. You listen. Once. Pause. Once. Once. Then silence. The skin on your hands gets colder. Your brain searches for a simple explanation. A chain. A belt. An iron hook hitting the side. But the sound was too rhythmic. Too much like intention. You don't understand what it is. And this riddle clings to you immediately. Not the last one of the night. Not the worst one. But the first one you will remember for a long time. One of the men walks aside. You hear the creaking of the door. The other stays with the horse. Now there seem to be fewer obstacles between you and escape. But the word escape sounds meaningless, even before you give it shape. You still don't know exactly where you are. You don't know how many people are around. You don't know if you can stand up without falling straight onto the bodies. You don't know if there's something worse waiting outside the gate. And most importantly, you don't know why you woke up right now. What happened before this? Illness? Stroke? Opium? Drunkenness? Someone else's mistake? Did they do something on purpose? This thought comes slowly and leaves a chill in its wake. Because in London, there were things more terrible than chance. Tonight, you are not just lying among the dead. You are trying to remember who decided you belonged there. A new noise is heard from inside the building. A wooden table, metal, water in a basin, the soft knock of a door, a morgue, or a waiting room for the dead. In large cities where epidemics broke out suddenly and poverty made death cheaper than treatment, there were special rooms where bodies were taken before identification, examination, or burial. Sometimes at workhouses, sometimes at hospitals, sometimes at parishes. They were cold, not for ceremony, but to delay the inevitable. But in the days before refrigerators, you couldn't delay everything. So hurry became part of the system. And haste doesn't like doubts. Your right hand is numb. You can barely feel your fingers. The wood is biting into your bones. Your neck is numb. There's a metallic taste in your mouth. You try to remember the last distinct impression before darkness. A cup, stairs, someone's voice above the bed. You catch fragments, like a person catches gray ash in the air. They are there, but as soon as you want to squeeze them harder, they crumble. Only one stubbornly turns. A mirror. A small mirror near your mouth. Someone was checking your breathing and didn't see anything, or pretended not to see. Here's a new mystery. Which is worse, a mistake or indifference? The answer doesn't come. For now. Man by the horse coughs hard. Then he spits to the side and mutters, "The plague would take away this fog." Not the plague. In the 19th century, London feared more than that. Cholera, typhus, smallpox, tuberculosis, the rotten fevers of the slums. Death did not always have one face, and when it came to the poor quarters, officials thought more about accounting and order than about tenderness. During epidemics, bodies were removed quickly. Speed mattered. So did panic. No one wanted neighbors to gather around the house, children to look through the open door, fear to live longer than necessary. Cities like to pretend that death can be swept away from the street like dirt after rain. But dirt returns. The door creaks again. Whoever went inside returns. There's still room. This sentence hits harder than it should. There's still room. It's like it's about a warehouse, about benches, about bags. You hear him coming closer. His hand rests on the edge of the side. The board creaks right next to your head. Another step. He's looking down now. At all of you. At you too. The air in his lungs stops again. One heartbeat. Second. Third. Too loud. You're sure you can hear him outside. The man sniffs as if he's counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Fifth. You can't see his face. Only the edge of his sleeve and a shadow. This. For the morning. Who? You. The one at your feet. The woman under the dirty shawl. You don't know. And it is ignorance that eats away at you from the inside more than the cold. Because at night, when you are considered dead, even a simple sentence can decide whether you will have a morning. The man leaves. The horse snorts. The chain jingles. The wheels move again. Suddenly, with a jerk. The bodies around shudder along with the cart. Someone else's elbow crashes into your side. Your head hits a tree. The pain is short, bright, almost saving. It reminds you, you are still inside yourself. The exit from the yard or driveway is felt on a slope. Then again, the paving stones. Again the creek. Again the night. But now you know more than you did at the beginning. Not enough to save yourself. Enough to be more intelligently afraid. It's a parish cart. There are 2 men. Ahead is a place for the dead. Behind is a city that doesn't look back. And someone has already decided that you won't complain. But that's not the worst. The worst is the knock you heard from below. Because when the cart gets back into the rhythm of the road, you catch it a second time. Once, pause, once, as if it were an answer, as if someone below knows you're awake. The mirror that showed no breath. The wheels find their rhythm again. Creak, pause, creak. This sound calms those who think you are dead and keeps you alive. You lie still. But inside there is movement. Thoughts return. Slowly. As if through water. And with them a memory. Short, torn, unfinished. Light. Not night. Day. Gray. Like the sky before rain. You lie. But not here. Not in this cart. On something soft. A bed. Yes. A bed. And above you is a face. Indistinct. Too close. Someone leans in. Something is held in their hand. A mirror. Small. Thin. It is brought to your lips. They hold it. They wait. And nothing. No breath. No fog. No trace. Or so it seems. You return to the present. To the cold. To the tree. To the smell. And you realize it all began there. In that room. In that moment. When someone decided that you were no longer here. In Victorian London, the fear of being buried alive was not a fiction. It was commonplace. Almost every day. Doctors didn't always have the tools to accurately determine death. The pulse was weak. Breathing was barely noticeable. The body was cold from illness or blood loss. Sometimes people fell into a state that resembled death. Coma. Deep unconsciousness. Poisoning. Epileptic seizures. Cholera collapses. And in this state, they could not be distinguished. You feel the cold running down your back. Because now this is not history. This is the explanation. The wheels bounce on the stones again. The body next to you shifts. And suddenly, you hear a sound. Quiet. Barely noticeable. Like an exhalation. You freeze. You listen. Nothing helps. It swallows sounds. Makes them unclear. Uncertain. But you are sure it was. Something nearby, not you. A new mystery. And it is worse than the last one. Because now the question is different. Are you the only one alive here? You don't move, even when you want to turn your head. Because if you make a mistake, they will see it.
Memory returns again. The same day. You are no longer lying down. You are sitting. Are you standing? The world is shaking. Someone is speaking. The words merge. Fever. Weak. No answer. You want to say something, but your tongue is heavy. Lips don't obey. And then darkness. And then the mirror. It was fast. Too fast. In those days, a doctor could examine dozens of patients in a day, especially during outbreaks of diseases. There was not enough time. Sometimes decisions were made in a hurry. Sometimes from experience. Sometimes from fatigue. And sometimes out of fear. Because the doctor was afraid not only of making a mistake, he was afraid of getting infected. And then the choice became easier. It is better to make a mistake in favor of death than to risk your life. You clench your jaw, barely, so as not to give yourself away. Because now you understand, you were not just taken. You were written off.
The wheels suddenly stop abruptly. Again.
This time it's rougher. The bodies around you shift. One falls harder on your feet. You feel the weight. Real. Heavy. A voice. Closer. Here. Another. Quickly. You hear something heavy being opened. A door. Or a gate. Metal scraping against stone. The sound is sharp. Unpleasant. The air changes. It gets colder. Wetter. And the smell. Stronger. Now you're sure. This is a place for the dead, not just a stop. Final. Footsteps. Closer. One of the men approaches the cart. His hand reappears. This time faster. Rougher. He grabs the body next to you, pulls. It shifts. The touch disappears. The emptiness next to you seems strange. Lighter, but also more dangerous. Because now you are closer to the edge. Another movement. Another body. The sound of a hit on the floor somewhere below. Deaf. Final. You count. You don't want to, but you count. How much is left? How much has already been taken? And when they get to you, and suddenly, the same sound. Again. Knock.
Under you. Once. Pause. Once. Once.
This time it's clearer, closer. You can't ignore it anymore. This is not a coincidence. This is not a belt, not a chain. This is the answer. And then the thought comes. Slowly. Scary. Inevitably. What if you're not the first? What if someone has already been here just like that, lying, waiting, and I realize too late. Tonight, you are not just trying to survive. You are following someone else's mistake. The hand comes closer again. This time it's towards you. You can feel it even before you touch it. A shadow falls on your face. The light disappears. And in that moment, you realize another thing. The worst. If they didn't notice you before, it was an accident. But if they notice you now, it will be a choice.
The room where those who no longer complain. Wait. The hand stops. For a moment. Right above you. You can feel it even before you touch it. A warmth that shouldn't be here, amidst the cold and the wood. Don't breathe. Don't blink. Don't exist. Fingers touch your shoulder. Easy. They try. Like checking a bag to make sure it won't fall. You hold on. Your body becomes someone else's. It's no longer yours. It's an object. Pause. Longer than it should be. You feel your heart beating in your ears. Deaf. Loud. Too loud. This. Later. The hand moves away. You don't know what it means. But you know it's not the end. The bodies nearby move again. They are being pulled. They are being lifted. They are being thrown. Dull blows echo below. One. Another. More. Each blow is like a dot. Each is like an answer that no one asks. You feel the weight around you diminish. There is more space. But with it comes something else. Danger. Because now you are easier to see. Footsteps. Closer.
A shadow falls on your face. And suddenly, light. Sharp. A flashlight. It is being brought closer. The light slides across faces. Stops. On you. It's a moment. Short. But it seems like an eternity. You don't move. Even the thought doesn't move. Because if it moves, the body might follow. The lantern moves on. The light disappears. The shadow returns. You're still here. They leave you. Finally. And then you understand. Why? In places like this, they didn't rush the last body. Because they could leave it until the morning. For inspection. For a record. For someone who would come and say, yes, this is him. Or, no, this isn't him. And that means You'll spend the night here. The cart jerks sharply. You are being pulled. Stronger. Rougher. Your body slides along the wood. Your skin scrapes against the edge. Pain. Sharp. Alive. You almost make a sound, but you swallow it. You leave it inside. And suddenly you fall, not high, but sharply, onto something hard, cold. Stone. The world changes. You are no longer in the cart. You are inside. The door closes. A thud. And silence. The air here is different. Thicker. Standing still. And the smell is stronger now. The same sweet, but deeper. Older. As if it had been here for a long time, and it wasn't going to go away. You lie there. You don't move. You listen. The footsteps recede. The voice fades. The chain jingles one last time. Then nothing. You are alone, but not alone. Your eyes adjust to the darkness. Slowly. Forms begin to emerge. Walls, low, damp stains, footprints, and bodies. They lie along the walls, on the tables, on the floor, covered with cloth, or not. This is not a cemetery, not a church, not a place of rest. This is a waiting room. You feel something touch your leg, lightly, as if it were sliding. You freeze. You listen. Silence. Then again, barely audible. A knock. The floor. From somewhere below. The same sound, the same rhythm. Once. Pause.
Once, now it is clearer, closer. You no longer doubt. It is not a coincidence. It is a signal. And then, something else. To your right, the cloth, barely moving. You look, slowly, carefully, the outline of the body, covered. But something changes under the cloth, like air. You can't take your eyes off it. And suddenly, the cloth rises slightly for a split second, bow, and falls. Silence. You no longer breathe. You don't think. You don't exist. Because now, you know, you're not the only one alive here. Historical shock scene. Once upon a time, in London, a coffin was found, which was opened a few days after the burial. Inside, the body was turned over. The nails were broken. The wood was scratched from the inside, and the face froze in place. And in an attempt to scream, after that, some people began to fear not death, but the fact
that it could be confused. You lie in the dark. You hear a knock beneath you. And you look at the fabric that has just moved.
Tonight, you are not waiting for death. You are waiting to see who moves next.
A list without your name. You lie there and listen. The knock from below disappears as suddenly as it appeared. The fabric next to you no longer moves. The room becomes still again. It's as if the night has taken a step back and decided to give you some silence. The wrong silence, the kind that doesn't calm you down, but prepares you. You breathe in carefully, deeper this time. The air is cold, damp, heavy, and you smell something new. The smell of lime, fresh, bitter. It was poured on the floor, not for cleanliness, for control, to drown out what begins after death. You slowly open your eyes wider. The darkness is not so dense anymore. There is light somewhere, faint, maybe through a window or a crack in the door, enough to see the outlines. And you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4 bodies on the tables, 2 more on the floor. 1 closer to the door. And you. This is not just a room. It is a system. In places like this, everything was counted. Every body, every day, every reason, even if the reason was just a word. Fever. Exhaustion. Unknown. You move your fingers slowly. Barely. Almost imperceptibly. They obey. Bad. But they obey. This is the first movement you allow yourself. And it changes everything because now it's not just survival. It's an opportunity. Somewhere nearby you hear a sound. Quiet. Dry, like a pen touching paper. You freeze, you listen. Yes, someone is there. You're not alone in the room. The light changes a little. You see more. In the far corner is a table. On it is a book. Big, thick, and a person. She sits, with her back to you, writing, slowly, methodically, as if nothing is happening, as if there is nothing strange here. This is a new danger, and at the same time, an opportunity. You look at him. He does not move. He does not turn. He just writes. You try to understand what he writes, and suddenly, a realization comes. A list. And then another thought. Cold. Precise. Are you in it? In Victorian London, such records were important, because death is not just the end. It is a record, a name, age, reason, sometimes a place, sometimes nothing. But if you are not in the book, that means one thing. You are not yet complete, and that might be a good thing, or maybe not. You turn your head carefully, barely, so as not to make a sound. The cloth next to you, the same body, the thing that moved. You watch, you wait. Nothing. And then barely. Fingers. Under the cloth. They shift. A fraction. You freeze. Because now it's not a doubt. It's true. Someone else is alive. And then a new wave of fear comes. Deeper. Darker. What will he do? If he moves, he could betray both of you. And then, footsteps. The man at the table stops. The pen hangs. Pause. He raises his head. Slowly, as if he heard something. You freeze, completely. Even thoughts disappear. He doesn't turn around right away, he just listens. And at that moment, from below again. Knock. Once. Pause. Once, way. Louder. Now it's not just you who hears it. The man at the table turns, slowly. The light falls on his face. It's ordinary, tired, indifferent. But the eyes are attentive now. He gets up and walks. Not to the door. To the floor. To that place where the sound is coming from. You look, and you realize there is something else. Something you don't know about yet. Something under this room. And if he opens it, tonight, you are not the only mistake in this room. You are just the one, still pretending. What is left under the floor? The man stops right above that spot. The knocking stops, as if whoever was below is listening too. Silence. It becomes thick, almost tangible. The man leans over, slowly. His hand slides over the stone. Fingers find the edge. Something hidden. Something that shouldn't be obvious. You look, without blinking, because now it's more important than breathing. And then, he lifts. A slab of stone. Small, but enough. Below is darkness, deeper, colder, and the smell, another, raw, earth. And then, a sound. Not a knock. Another. A light breath. You freeze, because this is no longer an assumption. It is an answer. The man leans lower. He peers. His face disappears into the darkness. A pause. Long. And then, he says, "Again." The word sounds quiet, but there is something worse than fear in it. Habit. He moves away. A step. He thinks. And then, he doesn't call anyone, doesn't run, doesn't wonder. He just sighs. And goes to the wall. There are tools, a hook, a shovel, something metal. He takes the hook, he turns. You can't believe it. Not because you don't understand, but because you understand too well. He doesn't save. He finishes. In those days, such cases weren't fantasy. Sometimes, when they found those who were still breathing, it created a problem. Legal, medical, human. Because if you're already listed as dead, who's responsible for your return? Sometimes the answer was simple. Nobody. You watch him bend over again. The hook drops down into the darkness. And then you hear a sound. Sharp, short, then silence. And the hook turns. Empty. The man says nothing. Doesn't look around. He just turns the stove on. Slowly. As if it were something ordinary. And then he returns to the table. Sits down, takes a pen, and writes. As if nothing had happened. You lie down, and now you know. Under this room, there is another one. And it's not for those who are already dead.
Historical shock scene. In some 19th century morgues, especially during epidemics, the bodies were not only stored in rooms, but also under them, under the floor, in basements, in temporary storage, sometimes without inspection, without re-examination, without a second chance. Sometimes people woke up there, and no one heard them. You look at the stove, and you can't look away, because now you know one more thing. If they put you there, you'll never come back. And then, next to you, the cloth, again, movement, stronger. The other one, he is no longer just breathing. He is waking up. And that changes everything. Because now, the question is not whether you are alive. It is, which of you will make the first sound? Tonight, you are no longer waiting. You are deciding.
Quieter than breathing. The fabric next to him moves again. This time, for longer. Not by chance. Not from a push. It's a movement from within. You don't look right away. Because you know, if he wakes up, the next sound could be the last for both of you. You listen. His breathing. It's weak, uneven, but it's there. And now there are two sources of life in the room. Two, and that makes everything more dangerous. A man at the desk writes. A pen scratches the paper, rhythmically, calmly, like a metronome, as if nothing changes. But everything has already changed. You slowly, almost imperceptibly, move your fingers apart by a centimeter. The wood under your hand is rough, dry, real. You are still here. Nearby, a light sound, as if your lips are opening. You look. Slowly. The fabric is slightly lifted. Under it, a face. Pale. Wet. Eyes half open. He looks. Not at you. Through you. And then, barely audible. A whisper. Where? This word. Barely born. Barely alive. But that's enough. You feel a chill run through you. Because now it's not just fear. It's a choice. You can be silent. And remain invisible. Or answer. And be next. The man at the table doesn't look up. The pen moves. Line by line, name by name, death by death. And you suddenly understand another thing. This book is not just a list. It's a boundary. Those who are in it are not coming back. Those who are not in it still can. And you don't know where you are. Tonight, you are not just hiding from a man. You are hiding from a page. A new movement nearby. He tries to raise his hand. Weakly, slowly, his fingers slide over the fabric. You see it, and you know he won't last long. His body hasn't turned yet. His breathing is erratic. His voice is almost non-existent. He'll make a mistake. And when that happens, you'll both disappear. You move your lips carefully. No sound. Just a form. Quiet. He can't see. His gaze floats. He gets lost. And then he does it. His chest rises harder. Inhale. Deeper. And the sound. Barely. But there is. The man at the table stops. The pen freezes. Pause. He raises his head. Slowly. You become stone again. Eyes open, but empty. He listens. A step. 1, 2. He takes his time, because he doesn't need to hurry. Nothing escapes in this room. He comes closer. The light moves with him. The shadows change. And stops. Between you. You feel his presence, his breath, his weight. And then, the hand. It reaches for this thing. You look, and you understand now. He will either survive, or the hand touches the fabric. Stops. Pause. And then, he abruptly tears it off. The face opens. The eyes are half alive. The lips are moving. And the man looks. Long, carefully, and then smiles. Barely. Almost imperceptibly. Not out of joy, out of confirmation. Here's another one. This word falls into the room, like a sentence. And you understand, now he knows. Not about you, for now. But now he will search. Most people feared being buried alive, but in places like this, that wasn't the worst outcome. The man looks again, then covers his face back, and turns to the table, as if nothing had happened. But now you know. He's not afraid of the living among the dead. He is waiting for them. Tonight, you are not the first. And that means there is a system. The system that makes no mistakes. He returns to the table, sits down, takes a pen, and writes, as if nothing had happened. But now you see more. Not with your eyes, with your understanding. This is not an accident, not a mistake, not a rare occurrence. This is a system. You look at him, at his movements, at how calmly he guides the pen, how evenly the letters lie, how he takes his time, because he knows. Time is of no importance here. The other one, next to you, is breathing harder, more often, louder. He can no longer hide it, and you understand. He won't survive. Not here, not like this. But there's another question. New? Darker? Why didn't that man raise the alarm? Why didn't he call the others? Why wasn't he surprised? The answer comes slowly. And when it becomes clear, it's worse than fear, because he's been waiting for it. In some places in the 19th century, morgues weren't just storage places. They were crossroads.
Bodies that weren't recognized, bodies that nobody took, bodies that had no value. They became something else. You look at his desk, and you see another thing, not just a book. Tools, knives, hooks, metal. They're not lying around by chance, not as a spare, but as part of the job. And then, you understand, not all bodies stay here. Some move on. Historical shock scene. In Victorian Britain, medical schools needed bodies. Lots of bodies. And the law didn't always keep up with the demand. After the famous cases of resurrection men, people who dug fresh graves, the authorities began to control the flow of bodies. But even after the changes, the ones no one was looking for were easier to use. Bodies from the workhouses, bodies from the hospitals, bodies from the streets, sometimes without asking any questions, sometimes before they were finally dead. You feel the cold penetrating deeper, because now it's not just survival, it's time. How much do you have? An hour? Less? A sharp intake of breath next to you, that, the other. He can't control himself anymore. His hand rises, weakly, and falls. A sound. The man at the table stops again. This time, without a pause. He gets up immediately. Goes. You know what will happen. He approaches, removes the cloth, and looks, longer than before. Then he puts his hand on the man's chest, presses, checks. And then, you see, he doesn't just look. He evaluates, like a product. Still warm. The word sounds quiet, but enough. And then he looks around, slowly. And for the first time, his gaze glides over you. You freeze, eyes open, but empty, breathing held. And this moment stretches, long, too long. Then he looks away. And you understand. He's not sure. Not yet. But now, he suspects. And that's worse. Because now you're not just a mistake. You're an opportunity. Tonight, you are no longer invisible.
You are being considered. What doctors were afraid, he walks away. But not like before. Now there is something different in his movements. Attention. He is no longer just writing. He is observing. You lie still, but you feel how the room has changed. The air has become different, thicker, more dangerous. The other one next to you is almost not moving. His breathing weakens, interrupts. And you understand his time is running out. But that is not the main thing. The main thing is you, because now you know. If he dies, you will be left alone. And then all the attention will be on you. Once upon a time, people were afraid of cemeteries, the darkness, graves. But in Victorian London, doctors were afraid of something else. Not death, but mistakes. Because mistakes didn't end with death. They began after death. In those days, even special devices appeared. Safe coffins, with bells, with ropes, so that a person could give a signal if he woke up underground. But that was for those who had money. You? No? You? The one who was not checked twice? Most people feared the grave, but doctors feared something worse. You feel something change inside you. Not a body. A decision. You can't lie down anymore. Not for long. Because now you know. He'll come back. And when he does, he'll look more closely. And then, you'll either stay dead, or you'll come alive. And both are dangerous. You move your fingers slowly, stronger than before. Your hand obeys. Better. You feel the floor, the stone, cold, hard, real. It gives you something new. Control. You carefully turn your head. Barely. The man at the table is no longer writing. He looks. At you. Not directly, but enough. And you understand he is waiting. Not a mistake. Movement. And then, from below, again, macro, knock. Once, pause, once. This time, louder, more desperate. And you suddenly realize the one who is there is still alive.
And he cannot remain silent for long. That means time is running out not only for you, and then, next to you, a quiet sound. Last breath. That one, the other one. He freezes. Forever. And in that moment, you feel an emptiness, not emotional, real. You are left alone. And that is the worst. Because now, everything in this room belongs to you and to him. The man slowly gets up, without haste, and walks straight towards you. A step, another one. The light moves, the shadows change. And with each step, you understand. This is a moment. The same one. The one you were afraid of. And the one you were waiting for. Tonight, you're not pretending anymore. You're about to choose.
The moment when you decide to move. He walks towards you, slowly, without haste, as if he knows you won't run away. The light from the lantern follows him. The shadows on the floor break. Moving, a step, more. You lie down, and you no longer think about staying still. Because now it's not protection. It's a trap. His eyes are already on you. Not completely, but enough. And you understand. Just another second, and he'll see. The worst part was not being mistaken for dead. It was what happened next. You feel your body, completely, for the first time. Arms, legs, neck, everything hurts. But everything works. This is a chance. One. You slowly tense your fingers. The man is closer. One more step. The flashlight now illuminates your face. This is the last moment. And you do it. Suddenly, your body rises. Too fast. Too abruptly. Air hits your lungs. Loud. Vivid. Eyes open fully. And you look straight at him. He freezes. For a split second.
That's enough. You push yourself away. With your hand. With your foot. You fall sideways. The bodies around you shift. One falls. Another slides. Noise. The first real sound in this room. He reacts. Instantly. Stop. But you're already moving. The stone is cold under your palms. You slide, you fall, you get up. Your body doesn't fully obey, but enough. You don't know where. Just away. The door. You see it. Dark. Closed. But this is the way out. A step. More. Behind is a sound, fast beyond. He's running. You hear metal. Hook. Historical shock scene. In the 19th century, there were cases when people woke up already on the tables of anatomical theaters, under the knives, sometimes too late, sometimes still in time to scream, but no one wanted to listen. You reach the door. Hand reaches out. You pull. It's closed. Heart sinks. No. Behind. Steps closer. You turn. And you see. He's already there. Hook in hand.
Not like a weapon. Like a tool. And that's worse. Because that means he's done it before. Many times. You look around, searching, something, anything. And then, the floor. The slab. That place. Where did the sound come from? One more chance. But not to escape. For the truth. Tonight, you are not escaping. You are about to understand. Return to the knock you stand. Breathing raggedly. Eyes wide open. He is a step away from you. The hook in his hand gleams in the light of the lantern. But you are not looking at him. At the floor? At the stove? Knock. Again. Once, pause, once. Now louder, more desperate. As if whoever is there has sensed your movement, your presence, your hope. And then you understand. It is the same sound. From the very beginning. From the cart. From the road. From under you. He's been with you all this time. Return hook. You take a step back. Not from the man, to the stove. He doesn't expect this. His movement stops. For a moment. Stop. But you're no longer listening? You lower yourself. With your hand. On the cold stone. He's there. You feel his presence. His weight. His decision. But now there's something more important. You find the edge. Your fingers slip. And then you lift. The stove is heavy, but you're stronger than you were a few minutes ago.
The darkness opens. Deeper. Colder. And the smell. Raw earth. And then, you see? Hands. From below. Dirty, scratched, alive. They reach for the light. And the face. Lifts. Slowly. Eyes. open, alive, empty of fear. He looks at you. And in that moment, you see yourself. The one you were a few minutes ago. You thought you were the mistake, but you weren't the only one. The man behind you takes a step. Quickly. You hear him, but you don't turn around, because now you know. What's more important? You reach down, and for a moment the weight disappears. Fear, time, everything. There's only one choice. Pull him out. Or leave him. Because if you help, you'll lose seconds. And seconds here are life. No need. A voice behind you. Quiet. Calm. As if he knows what you're going to do. And then, a hand from below squeezes yours. Weakly, but enough. And you understand, he won't let go. And you too. You pull. He rises, slowly.
Heavy. And at that moment, a blow. The hook hits the stone next to him. Sparks. Sound. You fall sideways. With him. Noise. Bodies. Stone. Breath. Everything mixes. But now, the two of you. And that changes the game. The man doesn't stop. He goes forward. Slowly. Always the same. His voice is not angry, not loud, tired. Always waking up. And then, you understand. This is not the first time. And not the last. Tonight, you are part of something older than you. And it does not stop. What they called order. You lie on a cold stone. Next to you is the one you pulled out. His hand still grips yours, weakly, but alive. A man stands before you. Not in a hurry. Not shouting. He looks. As one looks at work that has been delayed. The lantern in his hand throws light on your faces. And now, there's no doubt. You are alive. Both of you. A pause. Long. Heavy. And then, he speaks. Quietly. Like, this word does not sound like a threat, but like a fact. You look at him, and for the first time, you see him for real. He's not a monster, not an executioner. He's part of the system. And that's what makes him dangerous. It was never about death. It was about order. In Victorian London, order was more important than individual life, especially poor life. The city grew, diseases spread, people died quickly, and someone had to control it. Count it, record it, move it. And if the system made a mistake, it didn't stop. It kept working. Even if you were alive, you try to get up. Your legs don't obey. The other one falls next to you. You are weak. Too much. The man takes a step. Slowly. You are already in the book. You look at the table, at the thick book, and you understand. Your name is already there, or something instead of it. And that means, to the world, you have already disappeared. Historical shock scene. After the Anatomy Act was passed in 1832, the bodies of the poor, the unidentified, or those who were not claimed, were often handed over for medical research. Without consent, without choice. Sometimes, a person hasn't had time to prove that they're alive yet. And then, they become part of science, or part of the system. Forever. The man comes closer. You look at him, and you understand. He's not afraid of you, because he doesn't see you as people. You're a record, a load, a task, and then something changes in you. Not fear. A decision. You abruptly pull the hand of this or that person. To the side. He falls. You too. But it creates chaos. Short, but enough. The lantern sways.
The light dances, the shadows break, and you see the door open by a few centimeters. A chance. The last. Don't. A voice behind you. But you're already moving. You're sliding. You're falling. You're getting up. Your legs can't hold you, but fear holds you. You reach the door. You pull. They open. Cold air hits your face. Night. Fog. Freedom. Or something like her. You turn around for a moment. That one, the other, doesn't move. He stayed. And the man is already beside him. You understand. You can't save everyone. Sometimes, survival is escape. You go out, into the night. London breathes, muffled, heavy. As if nothing had happened. As if you were never there. As if those who stayed don't exist. You walk, staggering, slowly.
And with each step, one thought becomes clear. It wasn't an accident. It works every day. And if you survived, it doesn't mean the system is broken. It means you fell out of it. This time, tonight, you survived. But the city did not change. This is not a horror story. This is history.